Hello, and welcome to my first ever speedrun breakdown video. I've always wanted to make a video like this over some of the runs I've done in the past, and I think the Velkhana video I did is the right moment to do it. So I'm very proud of that run, and I feel like it does a very good job at showing exactly what we us speedrunners do. And also, Velkhana is probably the most iconic monster in Iceborne, so I thought it'd be fitting to start there. So let's dive right in. Hopefully, y'all learned something today, and hopefully, I learned something too. How to do this better job at doing this. This is my first one, so go easy on me, please. All right, so let's begin. So first, I'm gonna load up the video of the quest. I have it right here. Okay. So, I thought it'd be appropriate to start first talking about, let's talk about the drunk bird. That's the first thing you see in the video. Okay, so as you see when I start the quest with the bird dropping me in the where the monster spawns. I wanted to take a moment to explain why the drunk bird in Iceborne is something that I don't like. And a lot of the no other speedrunner I've talked to likes this change. Basically what they did was in base game, the bird had a chance to drop you in a random spot in the map. It was maybe about 5%, right? Let's actually draw this out here. Let's grab okay. So I think it's better if I show in a picture exactly why the change is bad, and why a lot of people were using the excuse that this was in the old games. But this is not like in the old games, okay? And I'll explain why here. Okay, so let's say that you have 6 different areas, right, in the map. And these little squares represent the areas right here. And they're kind of interconnected by, certain things. So just like passages or whatever, it doesn't matter. But the game counts these as different areas. So this could be like area 1, 2, 3. It doesn't matter. Okay. Now, let's say the monster spawns, and let's just say he spawns at area 1 just to make it easy. Okay. And in the base game, you had about a 5% chance that you would land on any one of these areas in the map. Okay. So right then, that's a 1 out of 20 chance that you're gonna land, even get the bird, drunk bird. Now the monster could be in any one of those 6 areas, so that's 5%. Or let's do this in fractions because it's a little bit easier for me to do. I'm an engineer, but who actually does the math? Okay, I just erased all that, but that's okay. You got the idea there. So let's say that I have a 1 out of 20. I'm struggling. I just got this little device and it's pretty cool. So let's say you have a 5% chance of getting the drunk bird. So that's a 1 out of 20 chance right there, right? And the monster can spawn in one of the 6 areas. 1 out of 6 chance. Okay? That means that if you keep resetting, that is a 1 out of that's 120. There is a 1 out every 120 runs that you reset, you will land on the monster. That's 120 resets. Okay, so this just is not a viable strategy in the base game. Okay, this is not something that you could actually grind for. It's too much RNG. The game already has tons of RNG. Okay, so this is just not a strategy that most of us thought was viable. So we didn't do it. There are some runs out there that do it, but these are players who just don't. They're not there to do certain scripts. They're just kind of like resetting just casually, and they happen to get a run. And that's why most top runs just don't use a drunk bird, because it's just too insane. Okay, it's too much RNG, and there is such a thing as too much RNG, which is actually a good thing here, because then that means that no one can actually get the best. No one sane enough can get the best script doing it. Okay, so what did they change? So let's redraw our 6 areas, right? In Iceborne now, all right, we have our 6 areas. Now they changed it, so you have a pretty high chance of landing of getting the drunk bird. Okay, you have a 1. Let's just say, let's give it a 1 out of 4. Okay, because it's pretty high. Okay, 1 out of 4 chance that you get the drunk bird. Not only do you have a higher chance to get the drunk bird, but now you basically almost always land on the monster. Not always, so I'm gonna maybe lower this 1/4 to 1/5. 1/5 chance. Okay. What does that mean? Well, let's compare the numbers there. You have a 1/5 versus a 1 out of 120 chance. Okay, so in the base game, it was maybe 120 resets to get the same thing for, an Iceborne 1 out of 5 resets. We never did this, so we never even went for it. But now in Iceborne, because it's kind of is viable, we have to reset 5 times as much on monsters where this is the best strategy. So this is the reason why the drunk bird is bad. Okay, the new changes. Okay, so let's move on from that. I think that's a good explanation. So let's move on. Okay, so immediately from landing on the quest, I'm gonna I didn't really organize my thoughts very well before doing this, but I kind of wanted to just get this video out as quickly as possible. So here we go. So the first thing you'll notice in the quest, when the quest starts, is a question I got asked very commonly, and it was, what the hell is this little red bar up here? Hold on, this headphones are kind of clipping my arm a little bit. Okay. This bar right here is the Velkhana 4-piece armor set. So let me show you what it is. I actually have my PS4 loaded for this, so it's pretty cool. What this does is, this is the, let me show it on here. All right, I have the exact armor set that I used here on the training area. So you can see I use 4 pieces of the Velkhana armor. And I use a skill called Velkhana Divinity. And it says, an aura of frost builds when your weapon is sheathed. Raising attack wanes each melee hit or shot fired. So what it does is you have this bar, and it basically decays on every hit. So you notice the bar at the top left, and every time I hit, it kind of goes down. Okay, that's all that's happening. And depending on how high your charge is, or how high that bar is, you'll do more damage. And it kind of slowly goes up when your weapon is still out, and then it recharges really fast when you're sheathed. So that's all the armor skill does. So now, why is this good for hammer and aerial hammer in particular? Well, actually, let me first explain how much the buffs of the Velkhana Divinity are. So I think that's actually important to show. So here's the little meter. Okay, they're technically, some people say 4 levels, some people say 3 levels. In reality, this bottom level is nothing, is 0. So technically there's 3 levels. This top level is plus 30% of all your raw. So it's not just base raw, it's all raw. Plus here, when it's right here, it's plus 15%, and when it's right here, it's plus 5%. So the meter starts full, and as you do multiple hits, the meter goes down slowly. Now, the good thing about aerial hammer is that it hits actually very slowly. On this Velkhana run, I think I do maybe like 30, no, not even 30 aerial hammer hits total. Okay, that's nothing. And each one of these levels maybe takes 3 hits to go down to the next level. So my goal in the script, okay, because actually the Velkhana armor is actually incredibly bad in terms of just the potential of actual attack damage you can put. So all your damage from the set will come from you doing a good job of keeping your level above, these two, the top 2 levels. We call this level 2 and level 3. Okay. So when I script my speed run of this monster, my goal was to keep the levels above 2 and 3. Now at the end, it does drop below that because I have no choice, but my script is surrounded around that. Let's see what else I can say about that. I already mentioned the Velkhana armor is really bad. So yeah. So let's move on from there real quick. Let's just start it real fast. Okay, so just right off the bat, I want to mention something else. Is that you notice I'm using the Diablo's hammer, okay? Actually, a lot of people thought I was using the Oregon hammer, but that's just not correct. So let me go back to my PS4. I have the same. Okay, so if I press start, it goes here. This is actually the Chaos Shatterer, and I have actually the reason I use this hammer is because I'm able to stack a lot more attack augments, and it puts it over the acidic lavinus hammer. It also gets 6 extra custom upgrades, which is the reason why it looks like the Oregon hammer, because these custom upgrades, they change the hammer's look, and they have 6 levels. So actually, let me go back to my slide, to my other slide, to kind of show why it's so much better. So both I'm going to draw a little hammer right here. Kind of, this is the Diablo's hammer, because I'm gonna make it yellow because it's kind of funny, and here's the acidic lavinus because it's kind of green. Okay, they both start at 290 base raw. Okay, now the reason why the Diablo's hammer is normally not used is because it has so much less affinity. It has negative 25% affinity, and the acidic lavinus has 0%. But because I'm using the affinity booster in this run, because the affinity booster doesn't last very long, it's usually something that whenever you're writing a script for a speed run, you look at the choices you have, right? You look at the items you have and your sets, and you think, and you first start with the highest damage. You say, can I do this run with the best equipment possible? Okay, and for me the answer was yes. Although the affinity booster only lasts 1 minute. So I'm gonna draw a little affinity booster, and it's actually 1 minute plus 20 seconds because it has lingering effects. What this does is it gives you plus 50% affinity for that time period. For a minute and 20 seconds, you get plus 50%, meaning that if I can just slightly give the Diablo's hammer some affinity, which is really easy. These sets bring affinity, like sometimes you don't even want them, but it brings a little bit of affinity. Then I can make up for all the affinity completely with the Diablo's hammer. Now the Diablo's hammer, when you actually start adding up all the extra attack augments it gets I think it's 4 attack augments, and acidic lavinus gets 2. Okay. Then on top of that, this is I should write this as plus. In reality, 4 attack augments is plus 20, and this one's plus 10. So plus 10, plus 20, and the acidic is plus 10. Then when I add the custom upgrades, which make it look like the Oregon hammer, it gets a plus 6. And then on top of that, you grab all of this, and then you add 5% to it because of Neb. So these is all addition for the base raw. So the thing is, and then I'm gonna just say plus Neb here. So I'm making these distinctions: base raw versus total raw. So why is making base raw so important in this run? And it's something that I kind of just glossed over. And the things like might seed and the demon drug and all that stuff, that's adding to your total raw. But I'm talking here about base raw, and the reason is because some boosts actually are percentages of base raw. So whenever you do stuff like use evasion mantle, the evasion mantle, I believe it's plus 30% of base raw. So on the Diablo's hammer, evasion mantle actually does more. It gives you more attack than the acidic lavinus hammer does. And some other boosts like that are like this. And actually, there's actually another thing. The reason why it's really important to have a high base raw, and it's funny because I was hitting the attack cap in the game in Iceborne. I know a lot of people have been hitting the attack cap early on stickies. And actually on this Velkhana run, I was hitting it very early too. And the reason is because the Velkhana set, it adds plus 30% of your total raw. Okay. And the cap is like ×2 of your and okay. So here's what I want to mention: the cap in the game. Let me erase all this. The cap is equal to 2 times your base, your base raw. I know it cuts out on the screen there, but so what does that mean? Because I was hitting the attack cap, the cap of the raw cap, I needed the hammer with the most raw, like that can stack the most base on your base raw, not just raw, not just attack boost, nothing. I needed the hammer that just gave me the most base raw, and that was a Diablo's hammer. The Rajang hammer, a lot of people were like, it has a high base raw, but the problem with the Rajang hammer is that you can't add neb, and neb actually adds to your base raw, and so the Diablo's hammer was even over that, the Rajang hammer, and because things like sharpness, the purple sharpness, are actually multipliers outside this total base raw. So white sharpness is a no-go on this run. So I had to go purple sharpness. And so that's why in my set, as you'll see, sorry I'm kind of talking a lot about the set, but it's important. I am running, oh, it's night in my training arena. I am running, where is it? Protective polish, okay? I'm running protective polish. What protective polish does is after you sharpen your weapon, you see at the top left how my little sharpness bar has a green thing around it. I will do not lose sharpness for a minute. Now, I actually have another item. A minute is actually not enough because I sharpened really early in my script. So a minute is actually not enough for protective polish. So what I use is, for how to get there, I use another thing in my set, which is called item prolonger. An item prolonger affects item duration by 50%, and that actually affects protective polish. So it means that protective polish stays active for 1.5 minutes instead of just a minute. So that is what I use in my set, and that's why in my set you see me use that. That's as deep as I'm gonna go into that. So I think it's time to actually start my my video. Okay, so I think it's good to play from here. Okay, so first thing I do is I go towards and grab the Slinger ammo. Now there's a lot of reasons why you want to start everything in Iceborne by grabbing Slinger ammo. Obviously, the main one that people know about is that you have to do the wall slam on the monster. Now, there's a lot of reasons why you want to do the wall slam, and it's actually not because really of the damage. The damage is nice, but there's a few reasons. I'm gonna try to remember off the top of my head because there's a lot going on through my head right now, and let's see. I'll do my best. So wall slam. 1, it gives us easy setup while monster is down. So things like setting up your mantles, your booster, positioning the monster at the right spot is all cool with the wall slam. 2, early enrage. I'll explain this mechanic shortly when I start the video with like me actually hitting Velkhana. And basically, in all Iceborne setups, you want to do early enrages because enraging the monster, although it sounds scary for like, you know, if you're just playing casually, you actually do plus it's like 10 to 20% extra damage on the monster whenever they're enraged. So you can actually make the monster go enraged early by doing tricks with the clutch claw. So I'll go over that in a bit. 3, you can tell the monster's HP roll. So the monsters actually have variable HP, and I'll go over that in a little bit more. So these are all the important reasons why the wall slam is important. And of course, you can say 4, you know, you get some juicy damage while all of this happens. So it's neat. All right, so let's move on to why I grabbed Slinger ammo. So this is basically every typical Iceborne run, and there's a Slinger ammo right there. Now, the first thing I know I haven't really moved the video, but it's actually all this stuff is really important. So whenever you spawn up here, Velkhana takes this path, okay? It goes down to this little corner, and then it walks kind of like side by the ledge, but then it kind of starts moving away from it. Now, depending on how big Velkhana is, it will move. It will be in a certain point in this line right here. Okay, the bigger it is, the further down the line is, because monsters in Monster Hunter World, and I think in old games as well, obviously, their walk speed is related to how big they are. So I can immediately tell how big the monster is, and size is just really important when doing these scripts, because it actually affects a lot of things, a lot of angles, and it affects your motivation, because I'm about to explain why the smaller monster is better for the almost every script I do. A smaller monster is better. So the first, you want to grab the rocks first, and I want to get to this little ledge behind the monster as quickly as possible. I'll explain very soon why. So what I do is I try to get as close to the rocks as I can. Like I try to get as close to the edge of the rocks as I can to pick them up, and then I go straight to the ledge in that angle. So that's what I do. So let's start that. While I'm sliding down, I whistle for the Palico, because this is a standard thing in a non-TA run or a freestyle run, because the Palico has a chance of giving you an attack boost, and I'll go over that once I start here. Okay, so I whistle for the Palico, and you see that I'm getting close to the ledge. Let's just, okay. So at this point, the first thing I do is I apply my protective polish. Now, this part is actually important why I do it really close to the ledge, and it's because I get to do actions. I get to cancel out of this protective polish quicker out from the ledge, and I get to do some other neat tricks. So I'll just play it here real quick. So I do my protective polish. Okay, so here I got attack boost, which is if you never speedrun Monster Hunter World, basically when you whistle for the Palico, it's a random chance it gives you attack boost. Okay, it's maybe about a 1 in 10 chance. I mean, you know what? I'm gonna be nice and give it a 1 out of 8 chance, but it feels sometimes like it's way worse. So we're already starting to see the RNG of all these elements come in, and it's only been 13 seconds into the run. Okay, so I already mentioned earlier how the Drunk Bird was maybe a 1 out of 5. Okay, now we're gonna do the Palico. I'm gonna be nice and give it a 1 out of 8, or 1/8. Okay, chance of happening. Now, small monster, it's not necessary, but it is necessary for this kind of run that I did. So I'm gonna be very nice and give it a 1/2. Okay, 1 out of 2 chance. So you already start seeing here that this run right here is 80 resets. Okay, 80 resets. So each reset is probably about a minute, because you have to go back to Selena, whatever, and then come eat, and then eat your voucher. I do eat for Feline Rider, which is a canteen skill, and it's needed for my script. But you can see how ridiculous it's already getting, and it's been 13 seconds. Okay, so let's go over why I get close to the ledge there. Okay, so the first thing I do after I do protective polish is I roll away from it to the ledge, and I shoot the rocks at the back of the monster. So the reason why I chose these angles, okay, so these angles are not random. Okay, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get to the monster probably when I'm about like this angle from him, because what the goal of my script is when I start, okay, is to make the monster parallel to that ledge. Okay, I want him to be facing in that direction, because whenever you're doing ledge script setups, the monsters always, whenever they're toppling, they topple forward. So what that means is I want the monster's head to be by the ledge. So I need the monster to topple his way forward across this ledge. So that's always how I do these scripts. So that's the reason why I chose the angles for stuff. I can go into deeper detail, but I don't think it's important. So it's more just messing around until you get the angle you want, and this is what I came up with. So when I shoot him with a rock in the back of the tail, he's gonna turn around, and I'm gonna start. Okay, so let's actually put it there. Okay, so Actually, something interesting is actually I do here with the rocks, and it's something that I don't think anyone knows about. And let me actually go. Okay, so whenever you shoot rocks, you always reload your little slinger. So let me just shoot rocks on the ground, and you're gonna see how my character like reloads between each shot. Okay, I'm just spamming it right now. You see how it's reloading? Okay, now what's really interesting that I found, and I was using it in my run, was that so I cancel out of the wet fit, the sharpening animation with a roll, and if you while this animation when you're like tumbling like that, you actually cancel that reload animation with a rock. So I shoot the rock, and I'm able to shoot immediately again. Okay, so I'm canceling the reload animation with that little tumble, and it's what is really interesting about that is that it's not just you can do rock to rock, you can do rock to clutch. Like you can go like this. Like let me show you. So you can go. See, you can like cancel it. Normally you can't do stuff like this. Like it's actually can you? But anyways, the rock to rock is really good. So what is the reasoning for doing double rock? So actually let's go back to why double rocks are used in these runs. So I shoot the monster in the back with a rock on the tail, turns them around, and then I shoot another one. Okay, I'm gonna actually delete these markings that I have here. Now, why do I shoot? Why do people are saying why are speedrunners shooting multiple rocks at the ground? You know, what is the point of this? So when you shoot them a rock at the ground, depending on the position of where you throw it, the monster will actually start this animation where he will look in that direction. Okay, and during this animation, you're able to clutch claw the monster without him getting interrupted. So he will continue this animation even if you get on the monster. Because I want to clutch his right side of the face, I shoot my rock to his left. So that's the reasoning. Okay, so let's keep going. Okay, so my setup, this is actually, these little nuances in these setups are very important. So you're about to see me do a 2 slap plus a wall slam. Okay, so a lot of people probably see these and be like, oh, okay, you have to do 2 slaps because you have to get the monster facing the wall, right, or whatever. But in reality, this is not the reason why us speedrunners do two slaps to wall slam. The reason we do this is because you have to do these 2 steps to early enrage. Okay, on TA Wiki, because you can't wall slam, you can do 3. You can do 3 slaps. I'm gonna say slaps here. Slaps. If you do these things, the monster will always enter the enraged state immediately out of whenever they get up. And like I said earlier, it's important to get the monster enraged. So if you do like a setup with 1 slap, like let's say you do 1 slap and a wall slam, the monster will not early enrage, okay? And you will be doing less damage when you start your script you're doing. So it's incredibly important that whatever script you're building, it has 2 slaps and a wall slam, okay? Or 3 slaps. So starting these scripts with early enrage isn't always optimal, okay? There are situations where it's not optimal to start like this, and you could just start attacking and then the enrage comes really quick. But for a lot of the speed runs, like really fast speed runs that are condensed down, like you want to do all your damage within an affinity booster time or evasion mantle time, they always do early enrages. So let's move on. So you're gonna see me do a double slap because I positioned the whole script to be a double slap to wall slam. So let's move on. So 1, 2. Okay, so I want to actually pause very soon after this to show y'all something very important. Okay. So something that a lot of people don't know, and it's very important. Actually, I'm going to change the color just for the heck of it. Let's do this. Nice yellow. Does it look good? Yeah, it looks pretty good. That number right there. It says 457. Okay, this number is not random, and it's not. It is important. So that number actually represents 2% of the monster's base, or I'm gonna not say base. I'm gonna say HP. No, saying base HP is actually wrong. 2% of his HP. Okay, so Velkhana actually has 6 HP rolls, 5 HP rolls. That means that what an HP roll is, it has 5 different HPs that it can actually spawn with. Okay, so it can be, I think it was 453, 457, 460, 464. Oh, so 468 there. 468 is the last one. 464 and 468. Okay, so in this run, I got a 457. In reality, I'm really grinding for these 2 bottom ones, okay? So, as you can see there, another level of RNG, something that I hated in base, and you know, this is in every Monster Hunter, true, but it's something that I just completely hate, and it's in all the optional quests. Not event quests, like things like the R-Tempered Monsters didn't have these HP rolls, and the arena quests don't have them. Like the special arenas do have them, okay? Like, you know, a lot of the people doing TA Wiki runs do have these HP rolls, but the arena doesn't. But it's just really annoying. I don't like these HP rolls, and I wish they like got these were just more rarity. Maybe in the guiding lands they're okay, or you're doing like expeditions, but just in optionals I just don't understand. It's okay for investigations, but I just don't get why the optionals have them. But anyways, so let's add this to our super RNG table. So 1 out of 5 the bird times 1 out of 8 Palico attack boost, 1/2 the size. I'll say 1/3 the HP roll. Okay, so I can't even do this math anymore. So it's 6 times 8, 40, 40, 5 times 40. What is that? 1 out of 200? Probably did something wrong there. But you're starting to see already the resets are getting higher and higher and higher. And that is the reality of resetting in Iceborne. Now, the question is, how long did it take me to get this run? It took me about 70, 80 hours of resetting. I played I definitely did this over a span of a week and a half. Every day resetting, and most of my resets were actually like these 2 are the worst. I normally don't reset when I don't get the Palico attack boost, but I do reset. Obviously I have no choice when I don't get the bird, so it's really annoying. So I barely even get to play because I had spans of maybe one time I had 20 minutes of resets before I even was able to start a run. So pretty horrible. Anyhow, let's continue. So the first thing that happens is the monster will wall slam, and I see how I get a lower HP roll. I'm very excited. So the first thing I do is I have to get on my evasion mantle and my affinity booster as quickly as possible. And it's important that I do these without any delay, because I need to also tenderize the monster's head. So I need to do those 3 actions: evasion mantle plus affinity booster plus tenderize the face, all as quickly as possible. So I get to start my script as early as possible. Okay, so first thing I do is I do evasion mantle, I do affinity booster, and then I get on the face. Now, something interesting that I'm going to talk over here is that whenever the monster is on the ground flailing around, his head, I like the yellow, his head is like wobbling left and right like that. Okay, and when the monster is smaller, I notice when I do all my actions as quickly as possible, when he's smaller, I end up on this side, and when he's bigger, I end up more on this side. So there again, my script kind of falls. I will lose like 2 seconds when the monster's bigger just from landing in the wrong place. Now, I could delay it slightly, like, you know, my claw, but then I end up just losing time again. So either way, I lose, and it just sucks. So you're about to see in this run that I actually land right next to the monster. So, you know, yay small monsters. Okay, so I start the quest. Okay, so first thing I do is I roll up on the ledge, and actually, what the monsters are gonna do next is you're gonna see a little roar, and this is actually important. I want people who don't speedrun really don't know this, but this is actually like interesting. Okay, so that little roar that he does right there that you saw, right here, that's actually his enrage roar. Okay, it's really strange why Velkhana's enrage roar doesn't really have a hitbox. It just kind of like squeals a little bit. And when that little roar happens, you know, I don't actually know what the percentage increase is. I'm gonna say 15% just for the heck of it. The reason I don't know is because in the base game, Tio's enrage was like plus 20%. Kushal's was a little bit less, and I usually think of Velkhana more like a Kushala, you know, type monster, but it's really not because it has other properties that are like Teostra. So I actually don't know what its enrage is, so I'm just gonna say 15%. So at that moment, you're doing 15% extra damage. Okay, cool. So the first thing I do is I run up the ledge, and it's actually important like how much up I run up the ledge, because let me go back a little bit. So you see how I run up slightly up, and it's not because I'm waiting for the monster to start its enrage roar, because it's actually I can just jump off now and it'll start it, and it's because I'm positioning myself far enough from the monster, like, so when I land and I get back on the ledge, the monster's angled correctly. Because if you hit the monster and you land down here, when you start your fight, the monster is going to be angled like this. So it's important that I make the journey slightly forward, so when I start the script, the monster's angled correctly on the ledge. And it's all about angling correctly because the rest of the run is going to take place on this ledge. Okay, so I need to start that right. So let's start. So the first thing I do is I hit the monster with a level 2 hit. It has to be a level 2 hit, because if it's a level 3 hit, you're wasting too much time and it's not worth the hit. If you're doing a level 1 hit, you don't do enough mount damage. Okay, the hammer actually has 3 level charges it can hit in the air. Level 1, level 2, or level 3. Okay, the mount damage these do is actually increases with the charge. So for my script to work, I need to do a level 2 charge. The hammer can also charge, do his power charge, which is whenever you grab the hammer and you like do your little R2 plus circle, and that gives you a plus 7% buff. But it's just not worth it here because it doesn't actually. I'm gonna mount the monster soon anyways, and you're about to see that I lose my charge there, and it's just not worth it in the whole. Whenever you like look at the whole scale of things, and these are just things that you have to think about when designing your script. So let's start. Okay. So I know I'm stopping the video a lot because every little thing that I do is really important. Okay, so I jumped off the ledge and I hit the monster facing that way. It's important that I face the direction of the monster, because if I hit him like in that direction, or I'm facing this direction, or even backwards, the monster actually behave like when it flinches, it will actually flinch differently. If you hit it going like upwards, the monster will actually move. I'm gonna draw a little circle. Different color. Will actually move slightly that way. When you hit him straight on, he'll actually move slightly forward. The other way, that way. And if you actually do the back one, he will move even more, like super forward. And I want him just to move slightly forward because I want to keep him in the same line. So I do the hammer attack facing him. So I'm about to show you that the direction of the hammer attacks is very important when you're doing aerial hammer. Like, that is super important, very, very important. And I hope people get something out of this. Okay, so I do that attack, and the first thing the monster will do is he'll flinch. So I'm canceling his little enrage roar with a flinch. So let's just play it again. I'm gonna use my mouse because it's easier. Okay, so then I get on the ledge, and because the monster is doing now this little roar right here, that's not his enrage roar. Okay, that's his battle roar. So he did his enrage in Iceborne because of the clutch claw early enrage. You can actually do your enrage roar first, and then he'll do his start roar. What this does is you can use these roars to start angling the monster. Okay, so the monster was actually it actually was facing this way, but I got up on the ledge in a position, so whenever he does his start roar, he starts looking at me that way. And it's very important I do that because I've had runs where like, you know, like I said earlier, you start down here, he's gonna face that way like that, and it's just not gonna work. Okay, it's not gonna work because you need to have him on that ledge really, like, you know, to be optimal. All right, so let's move on. So with earlier, you saw how I hit him with a level 2 hit. So these next hits, you'll see. Okay. So something really interesting about these Velkhana roars, I think other monsters do this as well, but you saw how I rolled early, but you're about to see, I rolled a little early, but then I still got the evasion mantle boost. The evasion mantle is important in speedruns because what it does is if you evade at the correct time, you get a plus, I went over earlier, you get a plus 30% damage boost, okay? And I found out that in some of these roars, if you can actually roll them earlier than the hitbox comes out, and the evasion mantle will still, like, you want to get it like as late as possible, be able to roll as early as possible to still get that buff. And I realized that you could roll like a second early and it'll still work. So you're saving time in all these little like optimization steps, and it's really important you do all these little things because it adds up. You know, you can optimize a run so much by taking like little like script optimization things, steps like this. So the next hit after that, I'll have a plus 30% attack boost and I will mount. Okay, and I'm about to show you something why the Velkhana set is so good for aerial hammer. So we're about to check it out. Okay, so whenever you mount a monster, your weapon gets sheathed, okay? So that is the reason why aerial hammer is able to, so there's two reasons. One, aerial hammer, I'm gonna actually erase that, hits slow, okay? So you're able to keep the meter high. And two, mounts recharge bonus. Okay, I know you can't see it because my face is on there, but that says bonus. Okay. So what that means is that you have to build your script around these mounts because that is when your DPS gets refreshed. So I know I'm gonna take a little detour here, and I'm sorry about that, but let me erase everything here. Let me actually explain how I build these scripts with the Velkhana set and what my mindset actually is when building these scripts. Okay. So let's say you have a, oh man, I hate that. You have you have actions you're taking, right? You're taking action A, you know, action A, action B, action C, right? So let's just say that the first thing you do is stagger, right? The next thing you do is, you know, dunk. Next thing you do is KO, whatever this might be. Maybe it's not dunk, maybe it's clagger. Okay. Okay, so whenever you're using the Velkhana set, you need to have these mounts like spaced out in a way so you have your meter charged at the next two levels. So let's say that you get in a lot of hits in this part, you want to mount here to recharge. Let's say you get a lot of hits here, this part, your script needs to mount right here. So you need these mount points to recharge your script and your bonus. And that's why my script is actually revolved around these, you can call them pivot points. These points where I recharge my Velkhana set. Now in reality, you only really get 3 mounts, and the first mount just comes too early to do anything about because it's super early. So I decided the first mount, whatever, like it's gonna be used for doing, starting up the setup. And so I ate for Feline Rider, which makes you be able to mount like slightly faster, and it just worked out that way. So you're gonna see that that my mounts are spaced out just right. And there's only 2 more mounts after this one, so that's why it's important, and that's why the Velkhana set is so good for aerial hammer, because you're able to keep the level high while being able to refresh it during points. So in reality, let me actually draw a quick like DPS representation of what aerial hammer looks like. Man, that just does not work. So you start high, right? Like let's just say this is like max damage, like max and lowest. This is just the Velkhana, right? This is max, and let's say these are just hits, right? You hit, and it slowly recharges. You hit, slowly recharges. You hit, and then it slowly recharges, and on the next hit, you mount. You recharge it back up. And that's, I mean, of course, this is like a macro level, so this is like really like a lot of hits and then it drops to the next level, a lot of hits and drops to the next level. But this is kind of what it looks like. So what your run needs to do is you need to maximize like the area of damage. Like you can't spend too much time like digging into like your hole down here, or you're not going to be doing a lot of damage and it's not going to be worth it. Basically, for the Velkhana set to be worth it, you need to stay in the top 2. And if you start dropping too much in the bottom 2, then the Velkhana set is probably not worth it, and you should probably look into another script or into not using the Velkhana set. Maybe using heroics with Master's Touch set might work. Honestly, it doesn't seem that way. It seems the Velkhana set is really good and is the way to go on like almost everything. But that's just how it goes. So let's continue. So the first thing that's going to happen is, okay, so I dismount. And I jump towards back to the ledge, because whenever you want to roll back and hit the monster. Now, something people don't know that's important is you can't just jump. You jump off the monster or dismount by just pressing X, or I call, you can just, it's really just the evade button. So I'm going to call, you evade out, evade, plus no direction. So, as in, oh man, it's cutting out there, so it doesn't matter. No direction. So if just press on the PS4, it's just press the X button. No, don't press by no direction. I mean, don't hold anything on here. Just press X, nothing else. Okay, and then I maneuver myself to the ledge, and as I'm flying there, I'm waiting. Oh man, something went up. Something happened. Oh, okay. This thing is touching the screen. You need to wait until the monster goes back to neutral, because there's a certain time animation after you dismount where you can't hit the monster. You have to actually wait, like a slight, like maybe a second or so, and then you can hit the monster. So you see me like hold the hit, and then when it gains neutral, I hit him. So that's all that happens here. Nothing fancy. And he just happens to flinch. I actually think this. I'm not sure if this flinch is a clagger or not. But when Velkhana gets hit in the air and it's a clagger, it does that little mini, like stagger in the air. So I'm pretty sure that was a clagger, and yeah. So the next hit, okay. So pausing again. The next hit, I actually break its head. Let me actually just let it play. Part broken. That's why it fell out of the sky. That's not the important part. What's actually important is that I dunked him out of the sky facing that way. The reason that is because at this point is when my script actually starts going from just like a, this is actually where my script starts going into staggers and KOs. So what I need to do is, I know I'm going to have a period of a lot of attacking, so it's time for my script to charge my hammer. So remember how I drew like that Velkhana like thing with the pivots? Right? So the most optimal time to start a hammer charge is right after these pivots. Okay? You don't want to start a hammer charge at the end of the pivots, because the moment that you mount, you lose your charge. So that is the reason why the best time to start to charge your hammer is after these mounts. So you're going to see twice in the run when I do this. Now, I was talking about how I hit the monster facing that way. So the fastest way to charge your hammer out of like an aerial hammer hit is to roll sideways and to charge. And the reason I hit the monster like facing out is because I want to roll and stay close to the ledge. See, like I'm still close to the ledge if I roll here sideways. So I get both the roll sideways and I'm close to the ledge. So that's, you're going to see this twice in the run. I do this twice. Okay. So the next thing that's important is when a monster gets staggered or KO'd, the next hit is actually going to KO, by the way. The direction you're hitting the monster with a hammer or with any weapon, but in this case, it makes the setups really, the script's really important, matters. So let's say that whenever a monster gets dunked out of the sky, it always faces right, okay? But if I, let's say I go hit the monster with an aerial hit and I'm facing that way, he will re-stagger facing that way. But if I do the aerial hit facing the other way, he will stagger the other way. Now, that is important to keep, because in reality, like, it's tricky. So you think here, oh, well, it looks like he's really far out from the ledge, so you should hit him, you know, that way to get him back in. But actually, his line position and his laying down position are not in the same line. Actually, if he stands up, he's like back like this. Okay, so doing a stagger, like facing the direction that I just drew there, he will like fall that way. Okay, but if I stagger facing that way, he will actually follow this line and fall like that. So it's actually like important to keep these little like things in mind when making these scripts, that the position you see the monster and where it's gonna fall next are not obvious things. And that's why you're gonna see me, and obviously in this point, you know, it makes sense that I hit looking that way, but that is not because it was the optimal thing. That's not because he was off the ledge, but it's because that was like the optimal way to position him again. So let's keep going. See? So he falls and he's back facing that way, and because his body was in line that way, that's how he falls. Okay, so Velkhana has the same property as Teostra, that whenever it tumbles over or staggers over, you can actually evade the falling body to proc the evasion mantle. So what this is actually really useful, because it means that on your script you don't need the monster to do attacks to be able to reproc your evasion mantle. Remember, the evasion mantle is a plus 30% damage boost, so it's incredibly important that you have this evasion mantle procced always. And it runs out after 20 seconds. Like you have to really keep it procced. You have to reproc it like every 20 seconds, about, you know. So it's important to just be doing this like constantly through your run. You know, good intervals. You don't have to like do it every time, but just have points where you do it. Now this part is really cool, because what I do here was, to be optimal in this next section, I need to do 4 hits, 4 aerial hammer hits, which are power charged, by the way, plus 1 slap, hammer slap. Now, in my script, I actually don't need the slap, but it's optimal I get the slap. So how do I get the slap? And the reason that I normally can't do the slap is because this next trick I'm about to show you, like, I can only get the slap if I get this trick that I do in this run. And I'll show you. So what I do is I roll the monster. The monster's head is going to fall like this. Okay, right? Just imagine that's kind of the monster's head. And then that's like the rest of his body. That's the wing right there. Right? What I do is I roll that way, and I use the monster's head to push me back out. If you don't do this, you don't have time to do that slap. So, in that slap you're about to see, does quite a bit of damage. Okay, it does like a 3/4 of an aerial hit. So that's almost that's an extra hit that is necessary to really do this run at that 146 time that you saw. If I didn't do the slap right here, my run probably would have been like 148, 149 maybe. That slap alone, because any hit, like if I wouldn't have hit Velkhana, like if I wouldn't have killed Velkhana where I did in this run, it would have been about 2-3 seconds slower, yeah, because it would have like limped away slightly, and I wouldn't have access to the head until a mount. So you can see how it all goes. So I'll show you right here how it happened, how it all goes. So Oh, come on. I need to use a mouse because this little thing doesn't work very well. See? Push it back out. So I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna play it again from the. Okay, and I do. Man, why did this pause? I do 4 hits, and then right when it gets up, I do a slap. Now I do intentionally the slap before the monster goes neutral, because I don't want to actually re-stagger the monster in this next part. I want to hit the slap before the monster goes neutral, and it's really important. So 2, 3, and on this hit 4, slap. Okay, you see how I hit that slap? 634 damage. It was, you know, and that's quite a bit. That's like 2/3 of what the aerial hits were, and without that, it wouldn't have been as fast as it was. So, okay. Now this next part is really funny. So the next part of the script actually involves AI farming. So what AI farming is you keep resetting your run until the monster does a specific action. Okay, in this case, something if you notice right here in this position that I'm in, you'll notice that my affinity booster is all the way back here, and I'm all the way down here. Okay, so I need a way to get back in there. Okay, you know, you could kind of get close to the monster and you could grab a little bit of the affinity booster, but there's too much to go still, and just that wouldn't work. So what I decided to do in my script was that because the next hit is actually a mount, because I've been hitting him with aerial attacks, what I'm gonna farm for is the monster to run through me and turn itself around. And on top of this, I get to proc the evasion mantle for free. So this next part is another huge portion of what makes Monster Hunter. This part is okay. Monster Hunter is AI farming a lot, RNG, so I'm okay with this RNG. But if we go back to our little RNG table we had, what were we at? Like 1/200 chance, and then times what this maybe happens 1/3 of the time. You start seeing how the resets just start getting ridiculous. Okay, and maybe this number's a little bit bloated, but even if it's bloated by a few, like a fraction, it's still a huge amount of resets. And that's just for this run to happen even once. Pretty ridiculous. So I'll show you what that move is for the monster does to position myself back, and it's cool because you know how I was moving myself down this way as the monster was staggering. Well, now I get to turn around and go back the other way towards the affinity booster and end the run there. So that's how let's watch what it does here. And I'm gonna once again use my mouse because I can't play with this. So the monster runs through me, and I turn around and I pop out the other side. And there's nothing fancy about this. The next hit mounts, so my job is to get the head. Okay. And then while this is happening, you can see that I charged my Velkhana set back up. Now, I didn't care too much to get it charged the whole way, because I didn't think it was that important, because it actually doesn't charge completely. And I did try to have my script charge it the whole way, but it just isn't worth it. Like the little extra time to get an extra hit of like a level 3 charge, it just isn't worth it. So I kind of just like, okay, like I'll just play it safe. Not safe, but it just wasn't necessary for me to try to charge it the whole way. Charging it 95% of the way is fine. So I settled for that. Now you're gonna notice that, because remember how I mentioned earlier the pivot points. Now the next thing I'm gonna do is I need to dunk the monster, which So how, like, I kind of want to just real quick, like, how do I know that the next hits are gonna dunk the monster? How do I know that the next hit's gonna KO the monster? And these are just trial by error. Okay, when you build these scripts, these are like, I imagine it kind of like a spider web. Like you start here and you kind of know, like, okay, like I need to enrage them early, but I have these 3 options to enrage early, right? Okay, I like this option. Okay, then I have these few options to do these things. Okay, then you kind of build this web of possibilities, and sometimes like, oh, okay, I don't like that. Let me go back and try this again, and then that's how scripts are built in this game. You're just trial by error, and you kind of just try different things, and you just have this tree of things you tried, and not always the things you try you end up somewhere where, like, it was the most optimal. And then sometimes other people, they're like, well, you were good up till, this point. Like, let's say somebody else comes in. You were good up until this point, but then, you should have done this, and then you should have done that. And that's how players build off each other. We grab each other's scripts and we optimize little things. And some players are ingenious. They're like, no, we should have done it this way. It is actually the optimal way. And that's the cool thing. It's like a spider of possibilities, and everyone's trying their own thing, and everyone built off each other. So that's why I love speedrunning. It's like it's a puzzle, and we're all in this maze, and in reality, we are all running blind, and we all think that what we're doing is the best thing. And in reality, for this run that I'm explaining right now, there's always something that amazes me. Someone comes out with something like, no, this is wrong. Actually, you should have done this, X, Y, Z. So it's cool. That's how we come up with these scripts. So how do I know I was going to dunk him? Because I traveled the maze, and I knew that was going to happen. So, and then when I'm doing my scripts, I'm just counting hits. I don't necessarily know what the Velkhana stagger is, but I know that third hit is gonna dunk him. Yeah, you don't have to know the numbers when you just know the hits. It's just hit counting at that point. So that's how it goes. A lot of people, that's how they people did Kushala. They don't have to know that Kushala's head threshold. AT Kushala was like 1050. Your longsword hit, if it connects, your little jump attack is gonna stagger him regardless. So just stuff like that. So you're gonna see me dunk the monster, and you're gonna see me do the same thing. I attack out, and I roll this way, and I'm close to the ledge. I charge my hammer down here, my power charge, and I start attacking again. So let's see that happen real quick. Okay, charge hammer. Okay, so after this part was actually very tricky, because if I don't did those steps that I just showed you really fast, it's actually the timing is extremely tight. So what I need to do here is I need to do 4 hits, and I can do these 4 hits to the head, however I want. I have to just do them quickly, but I don't have to be facing any direction special. But on the 5th hit, right? On the 5th hit, man, that's not gonna work like that. The monster will actually stagger. How do I know this? Like I said earlier, spider web of possibilities. I just knew at that point that 5th hit would stagger. But I need to refresh my mantle again, because after that 5th hit, it will actually just be a straight stagger to a KO to a kill. How did I know this? Because I did the run a million times, and I knew by then he was probably going to be about dead. So I knew from that, after this point, that I needed to proc evasion mantle one last time. So what I'm going to do is, I know the monster's position is kind of like this, like right, his middle of his body is about like that. If I hit the hammer going that way, like that way, the monster's head is going to be like out here. That's no good. So I need to hit the monster facing that way, because then his head will be right there. And as the monster falls from that hit, I need to do the evasion proc. So that's what I do. So I land at the bottom under him. See? On the 5th hit. So I don't know what hit this is. I think this is hit 2, 3, 4. No, this is 4. Okay, and then on the 5th hit, you see how it's tight. He's already getting up. Okay. I face that direction, because it's important. And immediately I'll roll into the ledge to position myself to get ready for the evade. And it's important so I can once again use his falling animation to both get me some speed onto the ledge and to get the evasion proc. So this is nothing fancy. This stuff, this part is simple, but it's just like it's interesting for me to point out that the angles of the hammer are important. So I'll get up on the ledge. Okay, so I know at this point that the run is pretty much over. All the only important thing I need to do is I need to hit the monster. I think on the 4th hit he KOs. So, and how do I know? Like I said, how do I know he KOs? Because I knew that after this certain number of hits with the power charge, the hammer hitting the head, that it was going to KO on the 4th hit. So, and I need the monster once again to land facing. I shouldn't have done that. Facing that way. So on the 4th hit, was it 4th or 5th? it doesn't matter. You're gonna see that I make it a point to face that way. Okay. On the other hits, I don't care. I can face this way, that way, whatever. But on that fourth, fifth hit, whatever it was, I need to face to the left. So you'll see how on one hit I make it like very, very harsh. So let's see. 1, 2. Okay, so on the fourth hit, see. So at this point, all the run is killing him in the KO. It's cool because you see the affinity booster run out, but I was kind of already in the affinity booster. So for the next 20 seconds, I have affinity booster like still active because it's a lingering effect. So the bad thing about the scripting the Velkhana run is like you see that like I'm pretty much dropped into the dead zone of the place I don't want to be. But it's okay because most of the run I managed to stay at the top. But it just at this point like it just you accept your fate and you need to just hit it as many times as possible. So I think it was cool how the Velkhana set like just worked just the right amount for this run to work, and it works for a lot of other runs. Right now I'm working on Master Rank TO, and it's amazing how well it works. Like the Velkhana set here as well. So it's gonna be a fast run. Not as fast as Velkhana because Master Rank TO is like super bloated HP, but it's probably gonna be one of the fastest weapons. Like maybe like it might be the fastest weapon again. Like Velkhana, I actually think Velkhana, the heavy bowgun is probably gonna beat it, or the bow actually. SSH told me that he thinks bow can do sub 145 pretty easily, so I'm not surprised. And I just pushed hammer to basically what I thought was the optimal extreme because I wanted to show the powerful potential of the strategy. So really after this, there's nothing else important. There's one thing I do want to point out that's really funny about this run. That is that makes it actually like it makes it the run a lot rarer than you think. So let me actually like play until that point happens. So let's see when it happens here. Okay. Okay, let me I have to circle this with like arrows and crap. Like what the fuck? So this is the Palico attack boost. I got it again in the end of the run. Okay, so not my Velkhana set is out, and like this is the perfect time to get Palico attack boost. And I think out of the hundreds of runs that I reset, I reset probably over like, oh man, I don't think I can see that. I think I can see it. Reset over like 1,000 runs. I never got attack boost twice in any run that I was doing well in. Any. So this run was just so much perfection, like on the RNG level. I played well, but I mean I'm gonna be honest. I played well in a lot of the runs too, and this is one of my better runs for sure. This is like my top like 5% like attempts for sure, easily. But on just in the levels of RNG, it was just a top, man, 0.01%. It's a crazy how everything lined up perfectly for this run, and that's why I just don't see the run unless the script gets changed or optimized some other way that I'm not aware of, or something new comes out. Man, just the luck I got here was incredible. So I'm very happy I did this run and I'm very happy that I showed y'all everything I went through when optimizing these runs, because this is pretty much how we speedrun this game, and like when we do freestyle, it's a lot of optimizing for your evasion mantle, I call them the Velkhana armor. Like you have all these important things that you need to like refresh. So it's you have to watch out. Your script needs to account for evasion. Man, I need to stop using that. Evasion. You have to every 20 seconds you have to kill the monster within sometimes when you use affinity booster. You need to kill a monster within, what is the affinity booster? 80 seconds. The Velkhana set, you need to watch your mounts, your KOs with a hammer. All these are, I call pivot points, and you need to weave them in such a way where you maximize your damage. And it's not always obvious how you do it. And for me, I still like, it's a guessing game for me a lot. And a lot of times we have intuition of how you do it. but it's a guessing game, and like I said, it's a spider web of possibilities, and we just keep trying, you know, different routes until something is like, okay, that makes sense, and I'll just go down that route. So a lot of people think like the game is just complete RNG, which it is a lot of RNG, but building the script of how you're gonna do things and knowing what RNG you're grinding for is the skill. I feel so. I hope, like, I guess I can finish the video here, and if you want to watch the full video, I'll link in the description. I should have said that earlier. I know I paused it a lot, but so like I mentioned earlier, how if I wouldn't have killed the monster at this spot, like if I wouldn't have hit it earlier with that slap, it might have gone another 2-3 seconds. It's because when the monster got up, like at this point, I only had time to do one more hit. And the moment, if I didn't have been able to get that last hit, the monster would have turned like that way, with its head that way, and it would have limped away. Now, I would have hit the monster and mounted it, but there's no saying that I would have killed it there. So it might have taken another 2 hits to kill it there. And another 2 hits is at least 3 seconds, at least. So that's why I'm saying that, like, that early, you know, like the early little optimization from earlier, that was a little tiny thing, saved you 3, you know, something that is a ginormous number. So if you also notice in this run, I did not eat for stuff like might seed, or, you know, demon drug, or the powder. So the question is why, and the answer is because it would not have saved me a hit. Okay, and if it doesn't save you a hit, then what is the point of buffing your attack, right? On top of me already being really close to the damage cap, it really only when I'm at the top of the Velkhana set bonus. So nothing extra damage would have, you know, changed my damage. The max damage I can hit with aerial hammer is 990. Okay, max. It doesn't matter how much extra heroics you stick into there. It's because I hit the raw cap. Okay, that is a max number. I can't hit 1,000. But yeah, the reason why these are not needed is because it would not have saved you a hit, so it would not have saved you time. So that's what you have to, like, whenever you build these scripts as well, you need to say, well, a might seed, you know, the might seed might give me, like, you know, plus 1% attack, right? But is that 1% attack worth the 2 seconds that it wastes, plus, you know, what will it save me a hit? You know, so you might waste another 2 seconds right there. So you can see, like, although it looks like you're gaining attack, you're losing attack, or you're losing time. So it's all a balancing game, and it's part of the fun. So a lot of times when I build scripts, people will be like, why did you know, people in the speedrunning Discord will be like, why did you do that? You're wasting time doing that. And then I look back and I'm like, oh yeah, that actually makes sense. And even, you know, I make tons of mistakes constantly. Like if you look at my other runs, I did all that, you know, I did the buffs and stuff, and it took me many iterations. That's the thing, like speedrunning is an iterations game. It takes many iterations before you start seeing like mistakes in your runs, and you do watch back like, wait, I can do that better. And that's just how it goes. So this last hit, I'll just let it play, and that's a kill. Yeah. There's nothing else really I want to say here. I'm very proud of this run. So I hope y'all enjoyed it, and maybe I'll do more videos like this again. I'm actually not sure how long this is. So yeah, expect more in the future, and I hope y'all enjoyed it. Peace out.